Welcome back to Music Rankings, Reviews, and More. And today, this is going to be the start of a 6 video series. We're going to be doing our top 15 favorite, not objective or best, but our top 15 favorite albums from each decade. We're starting with the 60s, going to go up to the 2010s. I'm pretty sure we're going to have some very similar picks for this decade, but like once we hit the 70s and so forth, it'll definitely vary a lot, I'm pretty sure. Um, yeah, so this should be an interesting video. How this is going to work is we're going to have a limit of 2 albums max per band. And the only reason that is not because we're like, this band is so much better than any other band. It's just some bands like have those albums that are just so close and tight that you can't really break them apart and say, okay, this deserves to be on the list, but this shouldn't be on the list, you know? Like Led Zeppelin 1 and
Yeah,
Led Zeppelin 2, that's kind of like tough to say, or like other albums. So, yeah, that's how it'll work. We'll try to keep it to a pretty short discussion. By discussion, we mean like we're not gonna really interrupt the person. We're gonna let them share their pick and they're gonna explain why they like this album, why they think it should be here. So yeah. All right, so I guess I'm first, and I'll just clarify that the order goes me, then Mariah, then Christoph, and then Nick, who's here now. Um, so coming in at my number 15 spot, I'm pretty sure no one else has this. I have from 1969, and also I'm just going to say the year, like when I get to a pick. I have the Allman Brothers Band debut. Very good, like jam, kind of like blues rock album. Definitely some of the best, like, or better musicianship from the 60s, I think. And also from a production standpoint, I think it still holds up pretty well today, especially because, like, these 60s albums, it's like they're like really good production or really shit production, but good music. So like, I mean, this has great. It's both. Good songs. Whipping Post is a classic, and that's why it's here. Next pick.
Okay, so for my number 15, I have The Velvet Underground and Nico by Velvet Underground from 1967. Um, this is a pretty solid album. I don't think there's a lot of standout tracks to me, but it all flows really well together, which is why it's in this spot. It's a good album.
all right. My number 15, I have Axis Bold as Love by the Jimi Hendrix Experience from 1967, and just pretty great guitar. Of course, Jimi Hendrix is a great guitarist. Drumming is good. My favorite is probably Spanish Castle Magic or Little Wing, and I don't like much psychedelic, but Jimi Hendrix is pretty good.
Well, yeah, because it's not like so and outstretched, but yeah. Okay, Nick, your pick.
Yeah, I have Rolling Stones, Beggar's Banquet from I think 68. Yeah, 68. Um, it's only at 15 because it's not the Stones' best work, and they definitely get much better later on, but still top 15.
All right, moving on to 14 now. Those were all pretty good albums. So coming in at number 14, I have from 1967, The Doors debut. And obviously, I can't put this much higher just because of the fact alone that this isn't even my favorite album by The Doors, let alone am I a huge Doors fan myself. However, this has one of the best 60 songs of all time, in my opinion. Break On Through the Other Side, and you're like, wait, what do you mean? Light My Fire. No, that song is kind of overrated. You're going to hate me. I think there's better songs on the album. I do think it's like a very creative album, like definitely one of the most creative from the 60s or just period. You don't hear a lot of like, I think it could almost be classified as jazz fusion in a way because it just really has that vibe to it. It's a really cool listen. Like, it's not always my thing. I'm usually not in the mood for it, honestly, but like when I am, it sounds really cool. So, next pick.
All right, so coming in at number 14, I also have The Doors from 1967. And same thoughts here. I like it. It's not my favorite Doors album. I'm not a Doors fan. Break On Through to the Other Side is by far the best song on there. Light My Fire is overrated. It's okay. But overall a solid album. So comes in at number 14.
Nice, yeah. So 14, I have Disraeli Gears by Cream. Just great guitar. I mean, Eric Clapton's great guitarist, and my favorite Sunshine of Your Love. Don't have much else to say about it.
Yeah, I have the Allman Brothers Band self-titled debut. It's a
Nice.
great album. Cyrus already covered it. I don't really know what else to say that's new about it. Great album. It's a fun album to listen to. Yeah.
Like a lot, I think a lot of the conundrum you get with these 60s albums is like some of them just are not they're really interesting from a music perspective, but they're also just not as fun to listen to. So with that being said, Moving on to 13th place. I'm not even a huge fan of this artist, but coming in from 1965, this is Highway 61 revisited by Bob Dylan. I mean, it obviously has his signature song like a Rolling Stone. I think it's pretty consistent for being a Bob Dylan album. I'm not really a huge fan of his voice. I do really like that he uses like the I don't know what that instrument is called. Someone help me out here. I don't know. It doesn't matter. No one else uses it really, like in modern music. But anyway, like it's a pretty unique album because of that instrument that I cannot name right now at the moment. It's a good listen, and I'm not even that big of a Bob Dylan fan, so that's saying something that he made it on this list. Okay, next.
All right. So for me, coming in at number 13 is Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. I have a little bit of mixed feelings on this album. The top songs on it, I absolutely love. Like, Wouldn't It Be Nice, God Only Knows. The top songs, I'm a huge fan of. Some of the other songs miss me a little bit, but the top songs are enough to put it at number 13. It's a really good album overall.
Nice.
Big Beach Boys fan, though, but still here.
Nice. Number 14, I have a second Cream album, The Wheels of Fire, 1968. Also, great guitar, and like this style, it can be a bit boring. Like, it's not the most fun to listen to, but overall, still pretty good. My favorite is White Room.
Yeah.
Nice. I have Cream's Disraeli, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Again,
Yeah, it's
classic
weird.
album. Eric Clapton before he became mid. Great.
Yeah. It's a good way to describe it. So coming in at number, listen, we're moving on to 12. So I have from 1967, I have Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix Experience. I believe this was his debut, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Very good psychedelic stuff, and I'm not even a huge fan of psychedelic stuff. Um, but it has a lot of great songs. It's pretty consistent for being a psychedelic album, which I do think a lot of psychedelic albums can get pretty boring at times, but it doesn't really do that. Obviously Jimi Hendrix is a great guitarist, so kind of makes the album, and obviously the other band members do their part on this album to make it pretty good as well. So that's why it's coming in here at 12.
So coming in at number 12, I have Bayou Cat Country by CCR from 1969. Really solid album. It flows really well. There's some really great songs on it, and John sounds amazing on this album like he always does.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, number 12, I have Beggar's Banquet by the Rolling Stones. It's a pretty good album. Haven't listened to a ton, but yeah, it's just pretty good, I'd say. They have better though.
Yeah, number 12, I have The Doors self-titled. Doors, not my thing usually, but it's not really my favorite album by them, but it's got some classics, and then it's got that one overrated song that everyone seems to hype for no reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Nick said. Unique song, but yeah, kind of overrated. So moving on to the 11th spot. Um, This is the first of two albums by this band. I have from 1969, pretty common year that we'll get to more up on the list. Willie and the Poor Boys by CCR. I mean, this obviously is the classic Fortunate Son. Effigy, the closing song, is a great closer. I mean, just really underrated, I think, in their catalog. I mean, this is just such a great album. And like CCR at times doesn't even sound like a 60s band because I just think they're more entertaining than a lot of 60s bands. But like, I mean, if you disagree, that's fine. I don't blame you. Um, yeah, just this is it's a really great, consistent album, I think. Just all in all, no bad songs here.
Yeah, yeah. Coming in at number 11 for me, I have Wheels of Fire by Cream from 1968. Really solid album. I really enjoy listening to it. Not my usual, but they just do a great job on this album.
Nice.
Yeah, I have the same thing as Mariah. I have Wheels of Fire by Cream. Pretty good album. Not Cream, not usually my thing. I do enjoy that album quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Number 11, I have St. Louis to Liverpool by Chuck Berry. This is like the classic 50s rock and roll style, but in the 60s, so it's about outdated, but still great guitar, piano mix, really good too, and vocals are good. My favorites are You Never Can Tell and No Particular Place to Go.
Nice. All right, so moving on, first album of the top 10. I originally had the White Album here, and like the album I replace it with is probably gonna piss people off because like knowing Beatles fans, this is like, oh, this album's not as good. I just think it's more consistently good, and I like the top songs on average a little more. So from 1965, this is Help by the Beatles. There are actually no boring songs on this for me, which I usually can't say that about a Beatles album because there usually is like a couple that I'm not as huge on. I really appreciate the Beatles' early stuff because I think it's more carefree and like loose and just like fun, I guess, overall. Even though their later period definitely has better songs, like on average, and the songwriting is better. Just a really great, consistent album, I think, personally, with underrated songs. So,
Nice. Yeah, my Beatles picks are going to be a little odd too. But anyway, coming in at number 10 is Electric Ladyland from Jimi Hendrix from 1968. I really enjoy this one a lot. I really like it's again not my style, but I really like the way he does this album and how the songs flow together. And there's some classics on there for sure.
Nice.
nice.
Okay, speaking of same artist, number 10, I have Are You Experienced, Jimi Hendrix Experience. Great album, as I said before, psychedelic, not usually my style, but he's a great guitarist. Vocals are good, drumming's pretty good. My favorite is Purple Haze. It's a banger.
Nice.
It is a
Yeah, all
banger.
great albums. I have the Velvet Underground and Nico by the Velvet Underground. Obviously, this is a classic album. Everyone knows that album cover. Great album. My favorite songs are probably Sunday Morning and I'm Still Waiting for the Man. That one.
Nice. All right, so coming in for the single digits, and I'm just going to announce the year real quick. This is from 1962, so you're probably not going to guess what this is. This is "Twisting the Night Away" from Sam Cooke, and I probably, if I knew more soul music, because I've never heard bad soul music. I'm sure there's some, but like that's not as far as I've come across. I probably would have had more on here, but this is really like the only one that made the list. So yeah, it's just this is probably of any of the albums, it's the most fun to listen to, I think. And for being from 62, which is like easily 3 years earlier than like any of the other earlier albums, right? I do think it has pretty good production on it for like, being earlier than that. So if you want a fun album to listen to, I think this is the best on the list for that, and I think that's the way to go. So yeah.
Nice. For me, coming in at number 9, which was a little bit of a shock because I thought it was going to be higher, but I really like the hits off this and not so much the deep cuts, is Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones from 1969. Obviously my favorite song, one of my favorite songs of all time is Gimme Shelter on here. You Can't Always Get What You Want is another huge favorite of mine. Um, it's a great album. I love the album cover. It's great stuff. Just don't like it as much the other stuff on my list.
Nice. So number 9, I have Help by the Beatles, 1965. I was surprised how consistent this is. Like, I don't listen to the
Oh
Beatles
right.
that much, but as I was ranking, I went through like the albums I had, and like I skimmed through it a bit, and like all the songs are honestly pretty good, which like surprised me honestly. Guitar pretty
I know,
good, drumming
period
pretty
too.
good. It's just surprisingly consistent. My favorite, the title track. So yeah,
Oh yeah, my favorite's the title track too.
Mine is actually The Night Before, Unpopular Take, but yeah, move on.
Cool. I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
I have Led Zeppelin's self-titled debut. I know a lot of people are going to be butthurt because I don't have it in my top five. I don't care. It's here. My favorite songs are probably Good Times, Bad Times. Obviously, Dazed and Confused, also a classic, and Communication Breakdown, one of my favorite Zeppelin songs ever. Great album.
Hmm. All right. Moving on to number 8. We're almost halfway. We're actually going at a good speed here. Not too fast,
it's a good pace.
not too slow. So this is obviously my favorite year from the 60s by far, and it's also because it's one of my favorite years in music, period, ever. 1969, I have Chicago Transit Authority from Chicago. This is their debut album, and it's really good. And it has like, that elements of like jazz and soul. And I mean, obviously they're like a jazz like rock band, not like jazz fusion or anything like that, but like more like just jazz rock. So again, one of the more fun albums from this list, I think. Pretty creative too. It has some like really creative deep cuts on here that are just like, like spoken word and stuff like that. So I think it's a pretty good record. I'd say it's one of their better albums, but not their best. Yeah.
Nice. That's a good pick. Coming at number 8, I have another Stones album, Beggar's Banquet by the Stones from 1968. Some really good songs on here. It's overall really consistent. They're just stuff doesn't stand out to me as much as some other things, but this is an album that's completely enjoyable from start to finish for sure. Salt of the Earth is probably my favorite of this one, which is probably an unpopular take.
Nice. Number 8, I have My Generation by The Who. It's a pretty good album. It's pretty consistent. It's not like anything amazing, but like all the songs are pretty good, and that's about it. And my
Yeah,
favorite is the
before,
title track.
did you include any other Who albums from the
I did.
60s?
Yeah, I have another
Okay.
one. I'll get to
I was
later.
like, they have a better album than My Generation, which is good. But yeah, Nick, you can go.
Yeah, I have the Rolling Stones' "Let It Bleed." Big
Nice.
improvement from Beggar's Banquet. Great album. I just think there's better. Again, obviously this has like all the hits. You can't always get what you want, all that stuff. My only like criticism is like after like the top four songs, I don't see as much enjoyment in the deep cuts as other Stones albums, but still good.
Same.
But the hits
Yeah.
just really elevated this one, I
Yeah,
think,
the
personally.
hits is high because the hits are obviously some of the best rock songs ever made.
Hmm. All right. And as I was referring to the better Who album from the 60s, I have the only Who album that I included on this list because I personally think they were a better band in the 70s. From 1969, I have Tommy by The Who. I think this album grew on me a lot because they played a lot of the songs on it when we saw them in concert. You know, like Pinball Wizard's obviously great, but there's a lot of other really good, solid tunes on this. There's a lot of good deep cuts on here. I don't think this is actually considered a double album, but if it's not, like it has the length to be one, I think. So,
I think it
uh,
is considered. It
yeah,
is considered one of
overall,
them.
it's pretty consistent. One of the better albums of that year and just like 60s in general. So, yeah, moving on.
Nice. For me, coming in at number 7
7.
is
Yeah,
Green by CCR. It's a great album. Bad Mood Rising is a favorite.
oh,
Wrote a song for everyone is a favorite. Sinister Purpose. I really like this album. It's a fantastic album.
yeah. I mean, those are great songs, and you didn't even mention like probably the best one. So I'll let Christoph go.
All right. Number 7, I have Let It Bleed, Rolling Stones. Pretty much, I agree with what everyone else has said about it so far. It's pretty good. My favorites are Gimme Shelter and You Can't Always Get What You Want.
Yeah, pretty basic, but like they're still the best crafted songs,
Yeah.
undeniable.
I agree with you 100% on that. Uh, yeah, for me, I have what's it called? So I have DCR Green River. I
Nice.
could have put this a lot higher because I love this album. I love pretty much DCR's entire discography, full of masterpieces. My favorite song's probably Bad Moon Rising. Kind of basic. Don't care. It's a great album,
Yeah,
Yep.
filled with passion and all that. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So coming in at number 6, the one that just missed out on our top 5. This is another album that I have from 1969, and I'm pretty sure everybody else has mentioned it by now. But this is "Let It Bleed" by the Rolling Stones. So yeah, everybody put this album on the list, rightfully so. Hits elevated, hits are great. Deep cuts are not as awesome, but they're still pretty good, solid rock deep cuts, I guess. "Give Me Shelter's" a classic. "You Can't Always Get What I Want" or "You Want" is a classic. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the best like produced albums of the '60s as well. I think so. Great album.
Nice. For me, number 6, Disraeli Gears by Cream from 1967. Fantastic album. Just kind of like all Cream albums, it's just a great listen from start to finish. You can just kind of get lost in it, and it is not my typical kind of thing, but fantastic. Sunshine of Your Love. I know it's basic. It's my favorite. Great album.
Nice.
Nice.
So, number 6, as I said before, with help, so I have Abbey Road by the Beatles, and I was going through it, and I was like, wow, this is surprisingly really good, because I said, don't listen to the Beatles that much, not usually my thing, but like, This is actually a pretty good album. It's pretty consistent, and I know it's basic, but my favorite is Here Comes the Sun and Come Together. But if I listen to it more, my favorites might change. I don't know.
I think they would, but I don't know.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a great album. I have Tommy by The Who. One of my favorite albums by The Who, but 70s Who is just superior. This is still a wonderful album. I love this album. Didn't quite make it in my top five, but I still love
Yeah.
it. Obviously, Pinball Wizard, a classic, like a
Hmm.
must listen if you're into rock. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So starting off the top five, and most of my top five, except for my one, could probably go in any order. So coming here from 1969, yeah, again, is Led Zeppelin's debut album. Um, yeah. So the hits on this are obviously really great. Good Times, Bad Times. One of the best opening tracks ever. What a way to kick off an album. Dazed and Confused is bluesy and great. What a classic. Communication Breakdown, very hard rock driven. Love that song. The deep cuts are also really great. A little bit more strung out bluesy stuff, but it's like really good. And obviously Plant's vocals, they're very much in their prime here. Um, yeah, great instrumentals. This is like take this and Zeppelin 2, and those are probably the best instrumental albums from the '60s. I would say, just based on like talent. So yeah.
Nice. For me, coming in at number 5 is Axis Bold as Love by Jimi Hendrix from 1967. It's an album I've listened to a couple times lately. I've really come to appreciate it. Again, not my type usually type of thing, but it's Jimi Hendrix. So favorites are Spanish Castle Magic, Little Wing, and probably Little Miss Lover.
Nice.
Nice. So number five, also guess what year it is? 1969, of course. But anyways, I have Green River by Creedence Clearwater Revival. Consistent, great album, great vocals, great drumming, great guitar. Overall, just really good. My favorite is Bad Moon Rising.
Nice.
Nice. I love that album. I have Abbey Road by the Beatles at five.
Nice.
My second favorite Beatles album. This is, again, very, very good. Not really any skips, I would say.
No,
I,
there's
I, I would
actually
say all the songs are pretty good. My favorite is probably Come Together, although I could pretty much say like half the album could be my favorite because it's like really consistent. Yeah,
hmm
Abbey Road, everyone knows it. I don't think I need to explain much more.
yeah. Yeah, Abbey Road or basically any Beatles album that, isn't it doesn't need to really be explained because it already has been explained several times. Anyway, coming in at number
Exactly.
this and my five were really close because they definitely have some stuff in common with those slower bluesier tracks. So this is Days Relly Grooves by Cream from 1967. This is the only album in my top five that isn't from 1969, so the other three will be. Spoiler alert. Just a really great album. I love the way it flows together. It doesn't get up to the speed of maybe like Wheels of Fire, where like White Room is definitely faster track, more hard rocking. Um, but just a really great psychedelic kind of bluesy album. Really great stuff, and Eric Clapton plays really well in this album. So yeah,
Nice. For me, coming in at number 4 is Led Zeppelin 1 or their debut.
nice,
Um, I do like Good Times, Bad Times, but I think my favorites on here are Dazed and Confused, Your Time Is Gonna Come, Communication Breakdown. Definitely not my favorite Led Zeppelin album, but overall pretty solid. For sure.
yeah,
Nice. Yeah, I have the same album, Led Zeppelin by Led Zeppelin, the debut album. Just great album, very bluesy, which not usually my style, but they do it pretty well. And my favorites are Good Times, Bad Times, and Communication Breakdown.
nice.
Nice. This is kind of a controversial pick, but I have Willie and the Poor Boys by CCR. Great album. I like it slightly more than Green River just because I prefer the top songs, and I think a lot of the deep cuts are actually really good too on this album. Obviously,
Nice.
Fortunate Son, everyone knows that song, but I do also really like Feeling Blue and what's it called Don't Look Now.
Yeah. All right. So coming in at number 3, I think these are all great albums, although the order might be a bit controversial, not to us, of course, but to, the popularity. But who gives a shit about it? So coming in at number 3 from 1969, but I don't really need to say that because all of them, or the rest, are from that year. This is Abbey Road by the Beatles. That probably their most consistently good album. Probably like their most rocking album, I would say, but no offense, that's not saying a whole lot. But it does have like some more rocking tracks, like I Want You, She's So Heavy, and then like obviously like Come Together is like clearly a rock song, and then like you have other good songs like Here Comes the Sun, Basic, I Know. Something's really cool. Oh Darling, even though it sounds like a Christmas song that I don't remember the name of. The End is a cool song.
Though.
Yeah, it's just full of good songs. There's nothing on here I don't like. It's the only reason it doesn't match my top 2 is because of top songs, and then like also the consistency like of everything combined isn't as good to me. People would disagree with my top 2, but that's okay. So that's my number 3.
Nice. So my number 3, coming number 3, is A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles.
Oh damn, I'm shocked actually.
Yeah, no, I figured it would be. It would be. So I considered putting Help here, the White Album, and Abbey Road, but I ended up going with the one that was most consistent to me, which of those 3, which is A Hard Day's Night. Not a single song I don't enjoy on here, which is rare for a Beatles album, because Abbey Road has a couple I don't enjoy, they all do. But this is a great album. A Hard Day's Night is my favorite. Can't Buy Me Love, and I Love Her. I'm Just Happy to Dance with You. I really like it. I really think it's just a fun, enjoyable listen.
Huh. Nice.
Number 3, I have Tommy by The Who, and I was surprised how good this album is. It's actually really good. Like, there's a good amount of songs like that they performed at the concert, and that at the concert I was like, wow, these are some great songs, and like, yeah, it's just
For
really
real.
consistent album. Like the vocals, the guitar, it's all good, and my favorite is Pinball Wizard. That's classic.
Yeah, I'm surprised it made it that high for you though, because like you've never really talked about this album much, like especially with some of the other ones. But yeah,
Nice. I love that album too. At number 3, I
same.
have the White Album by the Beatles. It's my
Nice.
favorite Beatles album, despite it having Revolution 9. But to me, all Beatles albums have at least one song I don't care about, and the rest of the album is really great. So it's making it here. Obviously, my favorite song is probably "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." It's my favorite Beatles song. Yeah, great
Nice.
album.
Yeah.
Obviously, Revolution 9 kind of sucks, but
Helter
if you're not
Skelter's
naming
a
it,
classic.
yeah. But the reason it's still on here, despite Revolution 9, is every Beatles album has one or more songs I don't care for. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can say the same about that for every album they've made, except for probably like maybe Abbey Road and Help. But like other than that, I could probably get on that train. So I think we're moving on to the number 2 spot. I'll be interested if we do all have the same number 1. I genuinely wouldn't be that shocked, but like we still have
Oh,
our
we
number 2 to
don't.
get through.
We don't.
I know you don't. I know we don't.
Well, you don't know. Okay, anyway. So
No,
coming
I
in at
know none
number
of you
2.
like mine. So
I guarantee we don't.
Oh no.
Anyways, go ahead.
I feel like I should be scared. Anyway, moving on to number 2, I have one that I'm pretty sure we've already mentioned, or at least everyone else has. I have from 1969, Green River by CCR. I mean, this album is just so consistent, full of great songs, and like y'all are saying, Batman Rising, Batman Rising, Batman. Like, yeah, I get it, great song. But that is probably not my favorite on here. There's a lot of great deep cuts, especially like the Nighttime is the Right Time. Just such a great song, bluesy, very like soul like. A lot of great vibes from that song. And then there's like just a bunch of great deep cuts hits. Like this album is full of it. Yeah, kind of close to my number 1, but yeah, definitely can't beat it. Yeah, not really sure what would beat my number 1 for especially for the '60s. So that's not a diss, by the way. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah, nice. So coming in at number 2 for me might be another surprise. Revolver by the Beatles from 1966. I heard this one recently, a couple weeks ago. I had not heard it for some reason. I thought I had, but I hadn't. Great album, pretty consistent. I'm not a fan of Dr. Robert or Yellow Submarine all that much, but they're
Oh
not
yeah,
bad.
Yellow
Just
Submarine is a stinker. I hate that song personally.
oh, that song could drive me crazy. So not that
Sounds like
one,
a
and I'll
little kid song, but yeah.
right. No,
It's the
I'm not a
Beatles,
fan.
so yeah, it's
True.
gonna sound like a little kid song.
Eleanor Rigby is one of my favorite Beatles songs. I love that one. I'm Only Sleeping, and Your Bird Can
Wish I could
Sing,
relate.
For No One, Tomorrow Never Knows. There's some really good songs on here for sure.
Wait, was that your third one by that band that you put on there? Or was Hard Day's Night actually the first? Okay. Wait, so your Revolver's your favorite then? I thought you said Hard Days was.
Hard Days is my second favorite.
Okay. Yeah, Revolver's pretty good. I'd probably rank it like fifth for me, or I don't know where I'd rank it honestly, but it's pretty good. It's consistent enough. Okay, so
Probably fifth
Christoph.
for me.
Nice.
All right. Number 2, I actually have Willie and the Poor Boys by CCR. This is a really great album. I love it for sure. Fortunate
Hey, we
Son,
both had a CCR album.
yeah, Fortunate Son is definitely one of my favorite 60s songs, and it's overall just a really great song. It's like short but sweet. I love it. So good. And the other songs really good too, and it's just overall really good. Is great vocals, and I love the guitar and drumming too.
Yeah, it's a great album. Number
Yeah.
2 is the album that everyone thought I would have at one. It's Led Zeppelin 2. Great album. Probably my second favorite Led Zeppelin album. Led Zeppelin before Robert Plant sounded bad. Great album. My favorites would probably be, well, other than Whole Lotta Love, I would say probably Moby Dick is probably really good. Heartbreaker, yeah.
Me and Christoph's reactions.
Okay.
Say though, at least his voice did recover. And then on as for Christoph's point, I was gonna say Fortunate Son and Give Me Shelter give me like the same vibe, or like very similar at least. I don't know. They just do. They have like
Favorite
that
by the
same.
band. Give Me Shelter is my favorite Rolling
That's
Stones
not what
song.
I'm. It's
Fortunate
not for
Son.
me. That's not what I'm saying. They like have the same type of flow to it. You
They
know.
do, and both of them are my
Yeah.
favorites, so maybe that's why.
I don't know if I'd call either my favorite. Maybe more likely for CCR because I think Can't You Hear Me Knocking is my Stones favorite. But that anyway. Um, coming at number one, like even my number two, there's no way it could beat this as great as my number two is. This is one of my favorite albums ever, and I don't usually say that about 60s albums. This is my second favorite album by Zeppelin. This is Led Zeppelin 2. Um, I mean, yeah, so that's why I was confused because I know this album like really well. I couldn't say that for all Zeppelin albums. I could say that maybe for like the top five and maybe Led Zeppelin 3, that's like 6 out of 8 of the albums I know pretty well. Chronologically, I don't know the last two as well. However, when you say Moby Dick, like if you forgot that's just an instrumental, I get that, but that would probably be my least favorite because the songs with like vocals and lyrics on this are just great. I mean, Whole Lot of Love is a classic. My favorite is actually a deep cut on this album. What Is and Should Never Be. Just oh my god, this song is so good. And then like Heartbreaker, what a great riff and bass. Ramble On, great song. I mean, yeah, speaking of rambling on, I guess you could say I could ramble on about this album because pretty much all the songs on here are great. There's nothing on here that I would say is good. It's like all great. Great song. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to say Ramble On, not Moby Dick. I don't know why.
Oh, I was like,
I just want to
Good.
clarify
yeah, I
that.
was like, me and Christoph's reactions were like, what?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I
mine was
wanted to
too. I'm
clarify.
like,
I meant
No,
wait,
it's because
Ramble On.
I've never heard anyone ever call that their favorite. Like yeah.
To clarify, I meant Ramble On.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. So moving on, I just explained my number one. Be interesting to see how many people agree with me. We obviously know Nick has a different number one, and honestly, I have no clue what that is. We'll see. We'll see.
okay,
And then
Prague, that's my hint.
right. So coming in at number one for me, also Led Zeppelin 2. My second favorite my second favorite Led Zeppelin album, but it's pretty close. My favorites on here are Ramble On, Living Loving Maid, Thank You, What Is and What Should Never Be. Whole Lot of Love is not one of my favorites on here. Unpopular take. It's still good though.
The guitar solo though is literally life, so I will have to say that.
No, the guitar solo is great. It's a great album. Like there's no song that I don't like. I don't really listen to Moby Dick just because I'm not an instrumentals person all that much. But
Yeah, I
great
don't
album.
listen to it on its own. Like I'm not like, hey, I'm gonna queue up Moby Dick, but like if it's on like the album, like of course I'm gonna listen to it. Like if we're doing an album play. I will say
Yeah,
though, like as great as the debut is, like I don't understand why so many people think it tops it. Like I definitely think this was an improvement. You know, the first album was just mostly blues. Like this is like it's still that style, but it's like you're expanding more. So I definitely think it's and the top songs are better. There's less there's more consistency here. I think more volume to it. So
yeah.
yeah,
No,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So, number one, not surprise, surprise. I also have Led Zeppelin 2. Very consistent, great album. Love the guitar, love the vocals, love the drumming. My favorite is Whole Lot of Love, and then I would say Ramble On, and then Living, Loving, Made, and my least favorite is Moby Dick.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my second favorite. It's a great album. My number one, definitely not usually my style, but nothing in the 60s is usually my style, except this is really good. I have In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. Probably my favorite prog rock album ever. I'm not much of a guy, but this album does it to perfection. My
unless
favorite
you
songs
count Rush
are,
Prague.
well, they're prog, but like more hard rock. This is like
Yeah,
just
true.
prog.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, what else am I gonna put? Pink Floyd? Huh, of course
Yeah,
not.
the Piper at the Gates. Obviously, what a great. No, I'm kidding.
No, I have functioning ears. Anyways, my favorite songs are probably 21st Century, Schizoid Man, Epitaph, and the title track. Whole
Nice.
album is great.
Nice. All right, yeah. I don't think anyone's list was too, off the rails there. But then again, that's only subjective. And also, this is the '60s. Obviously, like once we
Yeah.
get to any other decade, like literally, like once we get to the '70s and like and then other decades, obviously our lists are going to be very different because you'll see obviously tastes start to expand different. For example, I'm not gonna like have like Fallout Boy or like Imagine Dragons on my list or hair metal or anything like that because I'm not making fun. I'm just saying that's not my
Yeah.
thing, so I'm not gonna put it on my list.
And I'm
Yeah.
So
pretty
it's
sure
obviously
no one else except me is gonna have black metal or death metal or any form
Exactly.
of extreme
So,
that
metal on their list. So,
variety.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
for sure.
variety.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so that's exciting for the other videos in this series. So,
As long as no one has AGR, we're good.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean,
so
So
I
yeah,
mean,
stay
who
tuned.
knows?